Evening all, and welcome back. Bit of a blustery day outside, but we're nice and warm inside the shack, even though it's supposed to be almost June. Anyway, another piece of interesting radio equipment to show you this evening. And what we have here is a power amplifier from a ex-East German transmitter, Soviet era. So this unit would actually be part of a massive transmitter, probably a base station, possibly mounted in a vehicle. It's an R118-M3. That's the transmitter, and this is the power amplifier section of it. So I bought this off eBay. Didn't pay too much for it, I guess, for what's inside it, but it's quite a bit of unique 1960s/1970s Soviet era radio engineering. Just to show you the front panel. I don't know what your German's like. Mine's pretty hopeless, but a lot of the stuff is in German. We've got, I'm not even going to pronounce that, Messschalter, which is something, and we've also got Modulationsgrad, modulation level. We've got another pot potentiometer for a similar sort of thing, and we have some Abstimming Lichtungsstufe, which loosely translated means something to do with tuning, and Abstimming Zwischenstufe, which basically also is something to do with tuning. Antenna Kopplung, that's antenna coupling, obviously, clue is in the title. And we have something down there which I think is something to do with the power level, etc, etc. So it's a really sort of big clunky old thing. This front panel's about 1 centimetre thick. Nice little meter in the centre. So what's inside this? Well, this section here is where the modulator is. We have a GU81, which you may recall from my previous videos. I did an amplifier with a pair of GU81s. Big. I think this is probably the biggest glass envelope vacuum tube that's out there. Down here in this section here, I can move that around. You might see that moving. Come around that side, probably a bit better. So that's basically the anode tuning for the driver valve, which is down there, which is a GU50 pentode. And on this section here, just find the right one that turns it. I think it's that one. There you go. So that's like almost like a variometer inductor. So that's basically the equivalent of a tank coil for the output of the main RF amplifier PA stage. Moving over here, we've got a plate choke, and the rest of it's on underneath. So the way this thing works, or did work, I'll try and bring it around here to have a look, is that this is obviously the GU81 is the PA, and it is with the modulator here, which I'll show you in a minute. This whole thing is suppressor grid modulated. I'll turn it over in a minute and you can have a look at the other side. So basically this would slot into as I mentioned, slot into a big transmitter rack or something like that. And a whole load of voltages come in at a multi-pin connector at the back. And you slot this thing in and away you go basically. We've got some big pins here, so that's the RF output. That's what I've fathomed out. And the RF input from a separate driver section, or pre-driver section, in another part of the transmitter comes in here. So let's turn it over and see what's on the other side. So I've basically got this thing up on its end now, and just to orientate you, That's the front. So all this here is the driver section, and that's the base of the GU50, and then we've got, I think these are basically grid swamping resistors for the grid of the GU81. So that's the grid, that's an antiparasitic choke. So these, I think, are grid swamping resistors. You've got a doorknob capacitor there, which is a coupling capacitor from the grid, from the anode of GU50. That's the big power connector that I was telling you about. Then we've got a relay here which is connected. I'm not sure what this does actually. It seems to be connected to the suppressor grid. So I presume that comes in and connects the suppressor grid with the output from the modulator, I guess. We've got some truly humongous resistors here. No idea what this is. My big problem with this transmitter is that I can't get. There's very little information out there on the internet. I did find a manual. It's obviously all in Russian, and no circuit diagram. So that's the problem. So I don't know if anybody out there may be able to help or has got any information on this. It'd be greatly appreciated. As I mentioned, it's an R118-M3. There's a little bit of information on the net, but certainly nothing that I can use. No circuit diagrams or anything like that. So what am I going to do with this? Well, I've been thinking about it. I'm going to probably, if I can't find any information on the net, what I might do is take all this. These are all welded together, soldered together, all these power cables. Probably have to rewire this and probably redo the modulator as well. I'll just show you that in a minute. I'll just go and grab it and you can have a look at it. So this is the modulator unit, which has 3 valves on top, and that basically slots in like that. There's like a multi-pin connector on the bottom. I'll just put this down here so we can have a look at it in a bit more detail. So these valves here, from what I can tell, they are Russian equivalents of a 12AU7. I think they're 6N3P. The one in the middle is a double diode, 6X2P. But you've got, I presume this is some sort of audio transformer. But if we take a look, you've got really nice capacitors here. Those are mica capacitors, those are, so they didn't spare any expense in building this, and quite nicely made, quite soldered there on that tag board. And on the other side, oh, it's got the lid on. I did actually take that off originally, but there's not much to see on that side actually. It's just the reverse side of that tag board. So again, probably because I don't have a circuit diagram, I'm going to probably have to just redo all this. This is probably like a speech amplifier type arrangement, and then this audio transformer then was connected to the suppressor grid. So you probably have to apply maybe about minus 150 volts or 170 volts or thereabouts to the suppressor grid of the GU81, and you can modulate it quite easily. And the advantage of either suppressor grid or screen grid modulation is that you obviously don't need massive modulation transformers if you're going the route of plate modulation. But obviously the big problem is that you forfeit what you gain in space and compactness, you lose in power output. So one of these tubes, when it's driven at sort of about 3,000 volts on the anode, if you had a big enough modulation transformer, you'd probably get well, standing carrier maybe in the region of about 800 watts, possibly more. But when you're suppressor grid modulating it, the output will probably be in the region of about 200 watts or thereabouts. So as I said, what you gain in space you lose in power output. It's sometimes called efficiency modulation, although I'm not sure it's that efficient. So there we go. That is an interesting piece of Soviet era technology. What I'm going to try and do is I'll probably try and put up another video and see if I ever get this thing working. The whole point of this is actually to, if I can get this transmitter to work, I'll probably use it as a sort of portable setup. So build up a sort of perhaps a switch mode power supply for the HT and all the other voltages, and sling this in the back of the truck, and might make a nicer portable QRO transmitter. So keep watching and we'll give you some more updates.